going on, everybody? You are live with Osiris. Welcome to the Author's Lounge. The world is filled with storytellers, and I, along with my guests, are here today in the Author's Lounge to help educate and inspire the young generation of writers and creators. Now, my guests are professionals in publishing, writers from a wide range of formats, and successful entertainers. They will provide beneficial advice on what to do and what not to do on your path to success. So, without further ado, I'll present to you our next guest. Let's go.
Hey, it is a pleasure to be able to have an actual friend on the show. Not that it's not a pleasure to have others who I don't know onto the show, but it's always special when you have someone who you know that you have on board. So, my guest here, he is an individual who I met in San Francisco, one of the cities that I adore, back in February of 2025. Him and another friend of mine, Thomas Pedersen. He, we call ourselves the Three Kings. And my guest here, he is a writer. He is an author. And there is a difference between being a writer and being an author before someone tries to flame me for that. But he is a writer. He's an author. He's a podcast host. He has a book that is set to launch in second or third week of September. So I'm going to let him talk about that. So without further ado, I present to you the wonderful, my man, one of the Three Kings, Moses D. Powe. What's going on, sir?
Yeah. Good morning. Osiris, thanks for having me on your show. I am so excited about this interview. Oh my goodness. We've been, playing like around with dates for the longest. And so to finally be able to get a date where we are able to come together and do this episode, I am so excited.
Yes, sir. Yeah, same here, man. It's been a long time coming. As we mentioned back in February, it's been some time in between, but certainly have been staying in touch. I failed to mention that you're also a mental health provider. Now, are you a social worker or are you a psychologist?
Yeah, so I am a licensed clinical professional counselor. And so in undergrad, my major was psychology. So I have a bachelor's degree in psychology from Howard University. And then I have a master's in counseling psychology from Argosy University. So yeah, you're a psychology major as well, correct?
Oh yeah. Yep, sure am.
Wow. How's that
Yes,
coming
sir.
along?
It's coming along good. I'm right now. It's gonna be fun coming back and listening to this episode because right now I'm at 92 credits out of 120. But I've been at this journey with schooling since 2014. 11 years. Yep, 11 years, maybe a little longer. No, 2014. Been at it. A 4-year degree, 11 years. It reminds me of this guy. His name is Eric Thomas. I think he said it took him 12 years to get a 4-year degree. I'm like, man, I'm close.
Listen, life happens. You've been in the
Yes, sir.
military, marriage, fatherhood.
Yeah.
A lot of things can happen to change your date. You're on your own path. You're not on anyone else's path but your own. So if it's
Yes, sir.
4 years, 2 years, 20 years, I'm just proud of you for keeping at it.
No, I appreciate you, man. Yes, sir. It's certainly the journey. You have to have a lot of grit and a lot of will and determination to. With school is challenging. I think life is challenging in general, but in particular with me, with school and with the military, and also with what I do on the entertainment business side, as a host, or even as an author, can be tricky to balance it all because part of my mind is, but I really want to do this. But the other side is, but I'm also really good at this. So it's just a matter of, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just go. My wife is so encouraging. She would always say, just do both. Literally just do both and stop talking yourself out of these things. What's meant to be will be. What's yours is yours, and you just have to go after it. And I've been soaring ever since. So those are good. I appreciate it. So I would imagine for you, your journey to get to where you gotten to has been a fulfilling one.
Yes, it's been very fulfilling. And so I started out working with children, and my goal was to be a therapist for children. And so I worked
Mm,
in group homes, I worked in runaway shelters, and God bless whoever's still providing therapy services for children and families. That work is needed. I decided early on in my career that I was best, working with adults and specifically African American men. And so my platform is Fatherless Fathers. And so that's sort of, my background, growing up in an environment without my father being a part of that environment. And just along my journey, a lot of the men I've come in contact with, whether in my personal life and in my professional life, the common factor was our fathers were absent from our lives. And so it's like, you know what?
mhm.
I need to build a platform around this. And so that's why a
Yeah.
lot of my work is based on fatherhood.
Man, that's spectacular. And the better part about what you're talking about is that it comes from a place of truth. Some people, and I'm not sure who these people would be, but some people, um, when they do anything, it may come from a place where, hey, I'm good at it, so let me give it let me give it a shot. One of the things I often felt like I had imposter syndrome, right, when I was doing substance abuse counseling within the military. Not a licensed one at all. I was always monitored under a licensed provider, but I always felt like I didn't necessarily have a leg to stand on when I was trying to help people who struggle with alcoholism. I mean, I've since, moved past that thought, but initially when I was doing it, I always felt that how can I help someone when I don't necessarily know the struggle? Because I myself have never struggled with alcoholism or substance abuse of any sort.
Mm-hmm.
How can I truly come from a place of truth to help them get through this just based on knowledge, right? With mental health, on the mental health component, course, like I'm diagnosed with PTSD and
Mm-hmm.
generalized anxiety disorder, which I didn't realize that was a thing until they
Mm-hmm.
told me, "Hey, this is what you were coded for, and then here's why." It's like, okay. I guess that makes
Mm-hmm.
a lot of sense. But I at least know that, hey, I struggle with some things too, So I'm sure I can help you. Or hey, I'm married, I have a family, I can help those who are also married. It's hard to give marital advice if you've never been married, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to come from a place like you, Moses, and say, hey, I grew up without a father. So, and you grew up without a father. So let's help. For me, it wasn't quite like that for me. My dad was, I was fortunate to be present. My father was present in our lives, fortunately. And I know in the African American community, our community, that's not necessarily a thing where
Yeah.
the fathers are present as much. And
Yes.
so, but I wouldn't be able to come from a place of sincerity and say, I know what you're going through. So for you, like how much has that helped with your with your treatment and coming from a place that your clients can relate to you?
Yes, and I want to say I met your dad doing in San Francisco, and so whenever I
Hmm.
see dads that are involved in their son's life, like he was there cheering you on during the poetry night that we had, and so it brought me so much joy to see his dad is here in San Francisco with him, cheering him on during this poetry slam. So I applaud fathers like that. I love seeing stories like that. And so for me, it was so I just found myself doing the work at first. So it wasn't like I
Okay.
set out to like start counseling fatherless men. It just happened to be that's a lot of the men who are in need of services who are coming to the clinic for services. Or, I work in also an assessment center. And we provide services for men who are coming back from a period of incarceration. And a lot of those men, at least I don't have the actual fact, but I would say at least about 90% of them, their dad was not a part of the picture. And so it was not until around 2017, I attended this conference with Bishop T.D. Jakes here in Maryland.
Mm, yeah.
And he was talking about building a platform. And so I was at that point where it was like, okay, I want to branch off and work for other people. I want to do my own thing, like my own counseling practice, something. And he said, whatever it is that broke you, whether it's your mother not there, your father not there, deaths in your family, mental health, build your platform on that. And so I think my father not being a part of my life was very significant. And it was like, you know what? And then I started thinking about all the people I'm providing services for. Like, this is not a coincidence. These people are in my life for a reason. Like this, I'm going to build my platform on this. So I created the Fathers Counseling Consulting Services from that. I created Fathers Publishing from that. And so just a lot of my work since 2017 has really been focused on fatherhood. Now, I don't just provide services for fathers. Like there are women who come to me. And the other piece is you said just not being able to relate from someone coming from a father standpoint. So there's so many layers to it. So I would say, like, although we may have a common thing of our fathers not being there, but our experiences with that have been different. Like some people have been incarcerated. I can't relate to that. Some people are abusing drugs, who've been, sexually abused or whatever the case may be, that I may not be able to relate to that, but I can empathize with them. And so that also creates that connection because I'm genuine. I don't judge people. And so you may not have the exact experience. You may not have gone through the things they've gone through. Your situation may not be fatherless, but if you're able to show empathy for people of just not having something or just, you can still provide services to that person.
Yes, sir. That is well said. And I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because that could remove the feeling of imposter syndrome, and
Uh-huh.
just coming from a place where, ultimately, I just want to help. The part of the reason why I made this show, and I love what you said about TD Jacobs, right? Because he's an individual who I've listened to as well,
Yes.
and always has ton of knowledge
Yes.
and so much good to say. And but one of the things that like really stuck out, and I don't want to misquote what you said, but to summarize it up is just if come from a place of truth, have your infrastructure built on truth, and that will work because you're
Yeah.
coming from a place of sincerity. And when you have a message that is a sincere message, meaning it's coming from your truth, you can build off of that. And when I built this show, one of the reasons why I wanted to build this show was to help people who were new writers, or they were young in their career and they were young creators as well. And I was figuring, you know what? I love the entertainment business, and I love the movie business. I love the music industry. I love what that encompasses in filmmaking as a whole, regardless if it's a documentary or if it's a television show or it's a feature film, a short movie. I love the process, but I also very much adore the creation of books. And I love
Uh-huh.
storytelling, and I love writing, and I love the fact that there are authors who I know, or publishers or literary agents that I know, that are also immensely helpful with my writing career, my career as an author. And
Uh-huh.
I figured, you know what? I don't see a platform at all,
Uh-huh.
at least that I found,
Uh-huh.
with someone who looks like me or looks like us, right? That
Uh-huh.
has created a hybrid of both and made it a conversation type of an ordeal with the message of helping out the younger generation of writers and creators. And I
Yes.
figured, okay, if I do that, then that might open me wide to a market that that's there, but is not as prevalent as I've seen it. And so I have like so I love the idea that when you come from a place of truth, magic happens. And I've had with yourself, it's been colorful, man. Like just the amount of people who've been able to come to the show and what they represent, and what they look like, and what they stand for. And in a time where our country right now is going through some changes, given the political stances of positions of authority, and so
Yes.
you're not necessarily seeing a diverse panel of people, and so I can appreciate when I have all kinds of different people from racial backgrounds come on. But anyway, enough about that. I want to kind of hop back on to you because I feel
Yeah.
like you and we could talk for a long time, man.
Yeah,
But I wanted to,
but I do want to add to something you said, like
yes, sir.
just the writing aspect of it. So like I'm not someone who majored in English or literature, and so I applaud those writers who can write about anything. They can write about a book about the trees, or about animals, and so my writing is about fatherhood. And because that's something I'm passionate about, like my books are based on my son's real life experiences, and so I can write about him every day. And to create a story, and I can create a story about my son. And so, finding that niche thing for me, fatherhood, has been, you know, help me, feel comfortable in the industry, to feel like, okay, I don't have to be like all these writers. I don't have to have a degree in English or literature. Like, I have a story to tell. And it's all a part of my platform. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. I certainly would love to hear more about it. So, um, it so with your podcast, right? Do you just have one podcast that you do? Do you have two or three? Well, how many do you have going on
Yeah.
right now?
So, with my brand, Fatherless Fathers, there's one podcast. It's a Fatherless Fathers podcast. And so we have 5 seasons out now. Right now. So what I had to learn is that I was trying to do too much at once. I was building. So like this started during the pandemic, where things really started happening. I put out the first book, the one book, which is celebrates, my son's first year of life. And I started the podcast, and I started, creating, my website. I was doing everything at one time and not dedicating enough time to one thing to make it excel. And so now, 5 years later, I'm finally at a point where it's like, okay, I'm going to focus on developing each component before
Mhm.
moving to bring it all together. So the podcast has been on hiatus for maybe about a year now, because I've been focusing
Mhm.
on building up my counseling practice, and still, fine tuning this book that's coming out September 23rd. So there's one podcast that's associated with my platform, but I'm also a part of that 90s podcast with my Howard University brothers. And so that is separate from, my brand, but I'm still a part of that podcast as well.
That's that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
And I definitely would love to get more data on that from you, and seeing how we can various places that we can listen to you. So at the end of this episode, if you're cool with sharing all the places where people can find you,
Yes.
or connect with you if they would like to, or where they can listen to your work, purchase your books, I will make
Yes.
sure that that is linked in the description of this episode, both for the video based and the audio version of this episode as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. So speaking of books, you have a book, as we mentioned, coming out in the second or third week of September. I can't quite remember the date, but I want to
September
say the third week
23rd.
of September.
September
Yep. Okay.
23rd. Yep.
September 23rd,
Yes.
2025. What's the
Yes.
name of the book? Let's talk about it, man.
Okay, so this book is called Sean Moses is a Super Speller, and it's coming out September 23rd, 2025. And it's coming out through Fatherless Fathers Publishing. And it is a story about my son, who has had a very pronounced speech difference in early childhood, and how he worked through that challenge and became a spelling bee champion. And so it's just taking you through that journey of him winning the spelling bee. And so this book, I was going back through my files. It actually started in 2017. So people, think, oh, it's a children's book, just a very few words. You can just whip that out. No, it is so much you have to go through to make sure that the book meets industry standards, because that's important to me. So I don't want to just write a book and put it out and say, look, my book is here. So that's why I've been, like going to the San Francisco Writers Conference, where I met you, going to the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, going to their conferences, and just going to a lot of peer getting a lot of peer feedback, constructive criticism over the years. It's going through a lot of editing, because I wanted to meet industry standards. So the book
Hmm.
has been in the works since 2017, and it's finally coming out in 2023. So I'm excited about it. And this book started off like, so my whole goal was like to write books about my son's life. And then it was not until last year where I discovered, hey, my son made some major contributions to this book. Like he added, descriptions and spelling lists. And it's like, you co-authored this book with me. Like this is like,
Yeah.
but it didn't click to last year. And I'm so glad. So that's why taking your time to do things right is very important, because if I would have put this out 3, 4, 5 years ago, it would have been
Hmm.
by Moses Powe, and not really acknowledging like, wait, you made some major contributions to this book. So this is
Sure.
our book. And so I tell people, don't just, yes, you may be an excellent writer, you may have a great story to tell, but I don't recommend just creating your book and just putting it out there. You want to make sure that it goes through the scrutiny that it needs to go through, sending it to reputable reviewers so that they can critique your book and you can get the appropriate feedback before it goes out to the masses, because the world can be cold and brutal. And so I rather get that feedback and work on it before putting it out, and then, going from there.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. And congratulations on the completion of your book. Or if
Thank
it's
you.
not completed yet,
It's
close to it.
completed.
But
Yes.
oh, okay, good. Hey,
Yes.
well, congrats to you on that and to your
Thank you.
son. And one thing I can relate to, right, in what you're saying is, there's a part when it comes to with your son that you mentioned with his speech. For me, my son is autistic. In fact,
Mm,
all three of my children are autistic and very much different. Thankfully, all three of them they are verbal. They're not the nonverbal version of the autism spectrum, but regardless, the spectrum is a spectrum, where anybody who's been born a certain way, it can be challenging for them as they age, and you just want to instill confidence in them early on. You hope that society is kind to them, but historically speaking, society is not so
yes.
nice. And so you
Yes.
building warriors, or building a warrior out of your children, for them to withstand I guess the norms of racial disparity and bullying and these cyber attacks, if they choose to do things through the internet, and just preparing them, embracing them. But much like doing this podcast and figuring out things as you go, that's what I've understood how life to be.
Yes.
And oh, sorry, I wasn't sure you were about to say anything. Okay. Now you hydration time. Yep. I feel you on that, man. Yes, sir. But another thing too, about your book is that, so a lot of people don't necessarily realize the importance of actually owning your work, right? It's one thing to, let me write a book, let me put it through Amazon, and let me promote that. Isn't it, that in itself is an accomplishment. So I do not want to underplay that, because that is a big deal. But it's an entirely different ball game when you own your own publishing house,
Yes.
where the ISBNs, or International Standard Book Numbers, for those who aren't aware, when you own those, and you
Yes.
own your book, and you own the rights to it
Yes.
under your own publishing house, it sets the tone for something completely different, because now it's about ownership. It's
Yes.
about owning your work, about your IP. So how has that been for you, and knowing that this is my work, this is a representation of my brand, I completely own the IP of this. How does that feel for you?
And I learned this. That's why it's important to like join like these professional memberships and attend these conferences. Because I first attended the San Francisco Writers Conference, I want to say 2018, and I learned those things about owning your ISBN, having your own publishing house. Simple things like, people don't know, like to have writing on like the spine of the book, which is, for those who don't know, that's the side, that's a little small side of your book where the writing is. So if you want your books to be in libraries and bookstores, it needs to have the title and your name and illustrated on the side spine of the book. So just a lot of little things. Had I not gone through these conferences and started networking with people, I would not have known that. So do your due diligence and learn about the business. Don't just try to be a part of something and you have something out there. You like, oh, my thing is great. No, guess what? Uh, the industry and parents and teachers and librarians and educators can spot a book that's not of standard from a mile away. So um, learning about that early on has really helped me to really grow an appreciation for it. So now, but it's hard being a small publishing house, not
Uh-huh.
being one of the big publishing houses, because it's an uphill battle getting your books into stores or schools or libraries. And so I still want some type of distribution deal with maybe a major distributor because but I still want to own my stuff. But I'm still open to collaborating with
Uh-huh.
industry professionals to kind of like really bring my book into places where I can't get to myself.
Right. And I think that's the important piece that you pointed out, right? Is that you still want to own it. And it becomes, okay, well, how do you do this? And so some people, they'll go through sources like Draft to Digital and or Ingram Sparks, where it can be produced in the masses, versus it just being through Barnes and Noble Press, where it's really just good for Barnes and Noble, or Amazon, where it's just good for Amazon. There's a lot of platforms out there where people can put their manuscripts in on the website and be dispersed. But it's a matter of, I want more reach. How do I get more reach? And you're exactly right, Moses, when it comes to, you know, the importance of understanding these standards. Because do you want to be someone who's, when they look at that book and know, oh, okay,
Mhm.
that whole don't judge a book by its cover, it does not apply
Yes.
within the book publishing business. You are absolutely
Yes.
judged based off of the cover of your book. You are
Yes.
absolutely judged. People
Yes.
will put that book down if it does not look like it's quality from the cover, from the
Yes.
side, from the back. They will they will go to a bookstore, and I can play it out exactly how I've seen it. Um, you will get a potential reader who will go, just everyone picture this, right? You are all in the bookstore. Let's say Barnes and Noble. You walk in the doors, and the first thing you see as soon as you go into Barnes and Noble, right there at the center, is a ton of books laid out face up. You are
Mhm.
likely going to get drawn to those books. You're going to look at the book and you're going to pick it up, especially if the cover is catchy, and you're going to look, oh, this looks good. And you oftentimes look and you turn it around and you look at the back, or you might look at the side. You might put it down, but most of the time, people who look at it, those books over there all meet the standard. Every
Yes.
single one of them. If
Yes.
any of them look like they were self-published,
Yes.
even a little bit, it will just get glossed over and not even picked up unless they laugh at it. So the important piece in this is understanding what your role is. If you're doing it, if you're self-publishing it, or if you own an indie house like such as Moses, and I can say this because I own an indie house as well, that you want to do your due diligence and understand fully what you are doing, so it's mediocre. You want it to look like something that people could. It can be comparison to traditionally published books. It
Yes.
should confuse them.
Yes.
You shouldn't. They shouldn't even. There shouldn't be a thought of, oh, ooh, did he do this on his own? Like, or did she
Mhm.
do this on her own? It looks.
Mhm.
No, I don't want it. If it's one of those like with your work, if you hadn't said that you ran an indie house or you were doing it on your own and they saw your stuff, it probably would be hard to
Yes.
differentiate if it was coming from a traditionally published house or not,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So that speaks to your wisdom, your knowledge, and your tenacity in learning this business. Right? How has that been for you?
Yeah. b- you have to be able to open yourself up to criticism and take it. So I feel like each book, and this is my third book, I feel like each book I've gotten better because I've opened myself up to the criticism. So like that first book, the one book, like I sent it to reviewers and sent it to like, book competitions, and a lot of the feedback that I got really helped me to make a better second book. So the first book, I can look back on that and like, okay, not necessarily the best illustrations, not necessarily the best construction. Um, and I took that feedback. It was hard. It was hard to hear some of the feedback, but it was like, um, what I accomplished with that is that every kid who read that book, they loved it. It was very fitting for my target population, but it didn't meet industry standards like it should have. And so, therefore, when I wrote the second book, so that first book came out in 2020, the one book. The second book came out in late 2020, summer 2021. Sean Moses' Martin Luther the King Jr. And that book got rave reviews. It earned the Kirkus Start review, and it won awards. And so it was like, okay, I'm getting it. So
Yes, sir.
and still learning, like still getting feedback, because even if you put out the greatest thing, like people still criticize Dr. Seuss's work. So like you're not going to please everybody, but you want to be able to put out something where you're saying, I received the feedback. I agree with this. I don't agree with that. And just like being comfortable with what you put in the atmosphere. So opening up myself to that constructive feedback, even when it's disappointing or hurtful, that was something I learned from the second book. And so it's like, okay, my book is still now in this third book, it's like, okay, my book is still not inside of all the schools and bookstores like I want it to be. Like, what do I need to do? And so now it's like, so what I've been doing, like, send your book to reputable reviewers. So if you want it in schools, it needs to be reviewed by Publishers Weekly, School Library Journal, Kirkus Reviews, because the teachers and librarians, they look at those publications and those reviewers, and they buy their books based on those reviews. And so if you can get good reviews from some of those major reviewers, then you have a better chance of getting inside of these schools and libraries. And so that's been my goal this go round. So I've submitted to all the major places, and I know people like, some people like, no, but that's for writers like Woodson, or it's for those major, like, look, I'm in their industry,
Mm-hmm.
and I need to put myself through the same scrutiny that they
Yes,
put their
sir.
work through. And so you have to do it in order to become better. And I feel like each book
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting better, and this definitely is the best of the three. Now, each book has their own, thing that makes it, uh, a good book. But this one, I feel like, because of the feedback I've gotten from book one, book two, conferences, peers, it's made this an even better book.
Yes, sir. And again, congratulations on that, and knowing what you want to do. And I think that's part of it, where when you meet people who are new into the business, you're not new into the business,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like when you meet people who are new into the business, and it's always like walking into a warehouse. Like, I don't know, imagine going into Costco or Sam's Club or IKEA for the first time, and
Yes.
you've always, let's say you've always shopped at like your local grocery store, like I don't know, like a Kroger, or I don't know, I might be dating myself by saying Kroger, but just your local grocery store, Trader Joe's,
Yeah.
Sprouts, Safeway, some of those smaller grocery stores, and then you say, you know what, I'm going to introduce you to, let's bring you to Costco. Or let's
Mm-hmm.
bring you to Sam's Club, or let's just bring you to IKEA. IKEA, for those who aren't aware, that's not where you go to do grocery shopping.
Yes.
I'm just using that as an analogy. You can go buy furniture and things there, but when you go into a place like that, you are looking like, oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
where am I? What
Yeah.
is going on here? This is massive. That's a lot like the first experience with being in any business, but in particular in the book publishing business, where you're going into it and you're like, oh man, I thought my stuff was good. What do I need? And you spend some years learning that, oh boy, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'll
Absolutely.
get it. Yes, sir. Right? Has that been
Yes.
much of your experience starting out?
Exactly. And another thing that has helped me, I have been a part of judging panels. And so when you're part of a judging panel, you get to see all of the books that are like in the industry. And so now you start like, wow, I like what they did here. Okay, now I see why this is a top quality book, and you learn about the business that way too by judging other books. So if you receive an invitation to be a part of one of these, prestigious kind of like judging panels, accept it. It's a lot of reading you got to do, but you learn so much about book quality. And so that has helped me as well.
No, good. That's another important key factor right there is knowing your audience and reading what others in your genre have created. It's the same with filmmaking. If you're going to be an individual who makes films that are horror based, and you go and you're watching romantic fantasies, but you want to learn the style of a horror movie, you'll likely benefit more from watching horror movies. It's the same aspect with writing books. If you're going to do children's books, for example, right, since we're talking like children's books, and I can relate to that as well. If you're reading, novels and you're reading nonfiction work, it will help you in the long run in terms of, okay, hey, having the different perspectives for other writers and how they write. But if you really want to get better at your genre, you need to stick within the confines of your genre, meaning like read other books from other authors that's in your genre and learn and study the game. Be a student of the game, because before any of this existed, that's how people got better. That's the old school method. Not to say that you have to stick to it, but it is effective. It's highly effective to read other people's work that's within your genre and kind of learn their style and what worked and what didn't work, on top of being a part of different writing groups or going to these writing conferences, and expanding your audience. That much like Moses has done, and he has come as such a ways with where he started and where he is now. So I got to ask you a couple more questions, Moses, before I let you go. Good sir.
Yes.
One is for regarding your son, right? How does he feel about knowing that since he co-wrote the book with you, right? Like, or he co-authored it, or however we're going to phrase it.
Yes.
How is he feeling about this coming out? Is there any nerves? Like, oh goodness, I wasn't ready, but I guess this is happening now.
Yeah, so I think he got over that with the second book. Like, although he, he didn't co-author that book, it was about him. And so, we're doing so going to readings. I've taken him with me to like read to people, or taking him to book signing events, where, we have the big old retractable poster with him in the background. So I think all of that prepared him for, now you are officially a part of, the process, and so I like that he's still humble about it. There's no ego. It's really like, he is still sometimes embarrassed, like, especially when that big old poster of him goes up in the background. He's like, oh my God, do we have to have that up? I was like, yes, we need to have that up. And he's more comfortable if it's not around his peers. So I have, so if it's like around his peers, he doesn't want that up. But if it's like California somewhere, he don't know these people, he's better with that process. So to answer your question, I think that he is excited, humble, and he's like, but still also he's in school. Like right now I'm going to see him in a summer production of Beetlejuice. So he got, his plate is full. He's doing a lot of different things. So it's not like he is overwhelmed thinking about, oh my goodness, this book is coming out. It is like, I'm trying to give him balance. And so he's excited, but it's like a reserved kind of excitement.
Yes, sir. And kudos to you, man. And just the wonderful father that you are. You're just a kind human being with a good heart. I'll never forget when I saw you on stage perform your poetry. And it was a long night, but I remember saying, I'm gonna come back. I went to go spend some time with my dad, but I made it a mission and made it a point that I wanted to come see you. And we had just met. that
Yes.
night. But it was amazing, man. So speaking of of meeting you, my last question is, how can people find you, right? What are some internet, some websites that you are willing to give out for people to reach you or to connect with you?
Yes. So the main hub to find about everything I'm doing is mosespowe.com. That's MOSESPOWE.com. And you can also, my books are wherever books are sold, whether it's Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can order through your local bookstores. You can listen to the podcast on wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that's Spotify, Apple. You can find it in those places, but you can find all of that stuff on my website, mosespowe.com.
Yes, sir. There it is, man. Hey, thank you so much, Moses. I really appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much, Moses.
Thank you so much, Osiris. This has been like a wonderful experience, to really talk to, become a friend with someone who's a major author, who's known in the industry, who has this great podcast, who's a great father, all the things that I just, love, you embody that stuff. So I appreciate you for having me on your show. And thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words, and the same to you, man. Hey, well, on that note, thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to tune into today's episode. You've been a pleasure, man. It's been great, and I can't wait to continue to succeed with you and watch you grow. Hey, on that note, you all take care, and I'll see you next time.